Hey everybody, welcome back to DIY Not. Today we talk about the 5 most important tools that every homeowner needs. Join me. Alright, so first and foremost, disclaimer for this video. I've got a lot of gnats circling around my head right now. I don't know what's up with that, and I don't really know how to get rid of them. And so, if you see me do that every now and then, just go with it. It's gonna be okay. We'll live, probably. I might, have to have a little moment, little blooper, but we're gonna be all right. So today, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start by talking about the 5 most essential tools that every person who wants to own a home needs. Now, a little bit of my history when it comes to owning a house. My wife and I bought our first house, I believe it was 2014. So we bought a really old house. It was built in 1954. And I had all these lofty plans and goals and visions for remodeling this while we actually lived in it. The problem with that plan is that I didn't actually want to do that. And my wife, most assuredly, did not want to do that. And so what ended up happening is we lived in that house for 2 years, a little over 2 years. I did end up doing some work to it, but it was basically just enough to sell it for more. And I actually kind of flipped the house by the end of it. It turned out to be a pretty great deal, but it was totally on accident. From there, we actually bought a 4-plex. We moved into the 4-plex. We lived in one and rented out the other 3. That was great for a long time. Lived there for 2 years and then moved out, still owned the 4-plex and was doing the landlord thing from far away. Hated that, hated being a landlord, and was in a position on the 4-plex where really couldn't carry it and live outside of it at the same time. So actually just this year decided to pull out of that. Sorry about the truck. Pull out of that and just live in a house, and been much happier since then. And so more to come on that in future videos, but for now, the idea behind home ownership, I know a lot of people talk about this, I just want to own a home. One of the things that I like to pose for people that are talking about owning a home is, have you really thought about what it means to own a home? Not just from a financial side, because most of the time people, they make a good spreadsheet, they know what they're getting into from a financial standpoint, but do you really know what you're getting into from a maintenance standpoint, from a frustration standpoint? If you're buying an older home and you're not handy at all, do you have the money to hire a bunch of people? Do you have the time to spend that it's gonna take to maintenance this property? Because if that's not the case, then just rent for the rest of your life. There's nothing wrong renting. You can rent a home. It's gonna be a little bit more expensive, but to be honest with you, in the long run, it's probably less expensive month to month even over having to hire a handyman or a contractor every time something goes wrong or something is a problem. Now, the difference here is if you're willing to learn and you're willing to take the time that it takes to really pour into your handiness and your ability to maintenance your own home, you can do it. It's not really a difficult thing. And so what I want to talk about today is basically where I would start. If I was going back into my first house, what tools would I buy immediately? Now, I had been in construction prior to owning my first home, so I had a lot of these tools, but I started to think, like, if I was going back to having 0 tools, bought my first house, what tools would I buy first to be able to do some of the basic things that I need to do to keep this house in order? So let's start here. So the first tool that I would buy would be a drill and driver set, okay? If I was starting over, I would buy a drill and a driver set. And honestly, I would buy this very one, this rigid set. And I looked it up. You can find the link in the description for it, but I found this very one that actually comes with larger batteries on it, 4 amp batteries. I think these are 2 amp, or maybe even 1.5. Yeah, whatever these are. I'm pretty sure they're 2 amp, but what the amps are going to give you is a lot longer of a charge, and so you can use them for a lot longer. And well. And so I bought these. These are probably 6, 7 years old. They're not my original set. I had a set from about 12 years old, and I still have some of the tools from the original set, the Sawzall and the circular saw, but the drill driver set, I bought this as a dual set, and they sell it just like this still. It's 199 bucks. And the one right now, you get 2 of the massive batteries with it. It's a really great deal, and a charger for only 200 bucks. And so if I was gonna spend money on one thing, it would be this. The second tool, or tools, if you will, that I would buy would be a screwdriver set. So just a set of screwdrivers. Now, hand screwdrivers are really good for finishing screws. A lot of times your drill is going to be way too powerful for screwing something into a piece of wood. It's just going to blow out the hole. And so you want to finish it with a screwdriver, or little things like taking a face plate off of the switch. You need a screwdriver for that. Don't use a drill for that, because that's way overkill. And you're just going to blow out that face plate. I know it's frustrating, and if you want to see me struggle with screwdrivers, check out this video right here. You know, honestly, flatheads are the bane of my existence. They're the worst thing that's ever been created. So one suggestion I will make is, if nothing else, if you don't want to buy a whole set, they're really not that expensive, and then you get everything. The one that I have linked in the description, it's pretty good. The tips on those will be great. They won't necessarily break off. But a really good alternative, if you just want to buy one, is this. It's like a multi-thing. It usually comes with some bit storage back here, and so it comes with some bits that you can store or put in and use for different applications. And what I like about something like this is it just kind of comes all in one. You don't really have to worry about it. You've got your number 2 and your number 1 all together, right? And normally mine just stays like that, but if you need to do like a self-tapping screw, they're usually I believe that's 1/4 inch, and these are set up for that. And so it just pull that out, and you can do a little bit of that. Acts as a nut driver, and then you can flip it over, and it turns into a stubby screwdriver, a smaller screwdriver to get into tighter places. And so these are really functional. The one you can find in the description, I don't own it, but it looked really good. I'd probably buy it if I were moving into a house. Number 3, Pliers set. Now, you can buy all this stuff separate, one at a time. To me, these are the 2 most important. Your pliers, just straight up pliers, and diagonal cutters, wire cutters, whatever you call them, right? These are for cutting stuff. This is for pliering stuff, okay? You can usually get these in a set. I would wait until Black Friday or the holiday time, because they come out in these really giant sets. I did link one. It's kind of expensive. It comes with a lot, and it's a pretty good brand. And one thing you gotta know about pliers and cutters is the more expensive brands, you actually are getting what you pay for. A lot of them at this pivot point, it'll break, it'll become super loose, and you won't be able to plier as effectively. Number 4, a hammer. Hammer is very useful. You can hammer things, you can hammer things, and you can pretty much hammer things. I don't know, I use it for a lot of different applications. I find myself, for just tapping things together, or knocking things out of the way. I mean, it comes in handy. It's a tool that every person should have. And number 5, most useful tool in my tool belt, toolbox, tool setup. Tape measure. You gotta measure things. A lot of times if you're putting something in, or you're putting a towel rack in, or whatever type of situation, trying to figure out for curtains, trying to figure out what you need for what size of couch you want to put. I mean, basic stuff where you're not necessarily building, but I need a tape measure on a regular basis. And so I bought this. I mean, this one is literally 12, 13 years old. It's a Fat Max. I will only buy the Fat Max. Bonus, I got some bonus tools for you, okay? So these are tools that not everyone is gonna need for every application, but I have found personally useful. First one, stud finder. Everybody needs a stud finder. Stud finder is a great tool, although I hate this one. Actually, I just realized now as I'm suggesting it, I hate this particular one because what happens is I go through there and it finds the stud, and then I go and I confidently drill a hole and it goes right through drywall. And I haven't really figured out what to do about that, but I'm gonna get a new stud finder. But I've had other ones before and they've been a lot better, so get you a stud finder. Another thing, one of these little suckers right here. Most people, when they move into a new house, when they buy their first house, they wanna hang stuff on the walls. Hang it level, because if I come over to your house and something's crooked, it really stresses me out, and I don't need any more stress in my life, okay? Like these gnats, they're very stressful, okay? And I don't need any more stress in my life because I already got 50 gnats in my face. And so get you a level so you can hang things level, okay? So those two tools kind of go hand in hand. Speaking of level and square, look at this guy. Little speed square, super useful. Now, it's really useful if you're framing stuff, but it's also useful for scoring a square line on a piece of material that you're trying to cut. And so that's why I say it won't necessarily be super needed by every person, but if you're wanting to like build specific stuff, if you want to build something like this DIY sliding pantry, you probably will be best suited to have one of these guys, okay? And now, these tools I included in the bonus and not actual in the 5 because they're not technically tools, but top of your list, throw them on here. If you buy nothing else on this list, duct tape, WD-40. 2 most important things that every person who's gonna own a home needs to have in their house. Why? Because things squeak. Things make noise. Your door, it doesn't open, it doesn't close. You're stressed, right? Throw some WD-40 in there, spray it in there. I like this one because the tip doesn't come on and off and it's always there and I don't lose it, okay? So get you some WD-40 and create less stress in your life. And then duct tape, it pretty much can fix anything, at least temporarily. I find that I use duct tape on a very regular basis, and so get yourself some duct tape, okay? So these are the tools that I would suggest. It's not an exhaustive list. You may disagree with me. You may think of one that would be better. Why don't you let me know down in the comments below. Like, subscribe if you appreciate the content. I'll see you next week on DIY Now.